Welcome back to Homesteading with the Zimmermans, where each week we give you another episode of what's happening here on our Northeast Iowa 21-acre homestead. My husband Alvin and I have been married for 25 years and we have 7 children. 5 of those children still live at home. Our oldest 2 are married and no longer live at home, so this means we also have 2 son-in-laws and 1 grandson so far. So on our 21-acre homestead, we seek to preserve the self-sufficient lifestyle of our Old Order Mennonite heritage for the next generation. We involve the children in every aspect of the homestead, from raising and harvesting our own meat, gardening and preserving to fill the family's larder, or preserving the dairy from the family milk cows, plus all the many other skills that develop the character and integrity and relationships of a family that seeks to bring glory and honor to their Heavenly Father. Hello YouTube family, welcome back to another episode of Homesteading with the Zimmermans. This is another garden tour. This tour was actually filmed last week, and then life got busy and I decided I didn't have time to do a midweek video last week. So I put it all together for you to enjoy this week. And we have just been extremely busy here on the homestead because things don't stop. The garden keeps growing, the cows need to be milked, regardless of what else keeps happening in or what else comes up in our life. There's the consistency that is required to raise your own food does not pay any mind to anything else on your calendar. So we have been very busy with keeping up with the weeds and the harvest and making sure we preserve what we're growing. And anyway, let's get on with this week's garden tour. But anyway, let's head to the garden. We had guests last night. I found this little toy in the yard, so I'm going to throw that on the steps so I don't forget to take that to the house. Anyway, the boys have disappeared. I told them, hey, take the wheelbarrow to the garden. We're going to pull some weeds for the chickens, and I'll meet you down there. And of course, it took me a little longer. And so they brought the wheelbarrow and disappeared because they, of course, were like, I didn't know where you wanted me to pull weeds, which is true. They probably didn't know where to pull weeds. Hey, you are down here. Look who I found. I found one hard-working boy pulling weeds between the corn and the raspberries. Kendrick, you have done an amazing job. What can I do to reward you for this? Nothing? Very proud of you. Great, great job. Do you know where your brothers are?
No. Well, I'm almost done. I just have a little section.
Okay, you just have a little section. Thank you very much. So this corn right here is so very, very tall. Let me see if I can get a video of how tall it is. So this is how tall this corn is. It's almost twice as tall as I am. And I don't remember the variety, but I do know that it's an old-fashioned kind of corn. It's white, gets big kernels, and it's the kind of corn that you dry and grind up to make maize with. And this is what I found for a snack while I'm filming. There's a little picnic bug in there. That's okay. We'll just knock him right out of there and eat these. Anyway, so this tall corn, because I didn't need sweet corn to put in the freezer this year because I put so much sweet corn in the freezer last year. Thank you, Kendrick. That may go to the chickens. And then if you see your brothers, tell them to come find me, okay? Anyway, so this means because I didn't need sweet corn for the freezer this year, I get to experiment with a little bit of different crops. And I feel like since 2020, when we really started, I mean, we've always grown food, right? We've always grown our own food, some of it. But since 2020, when we started mass production of our own food. Sure. Since 2020, when we started being very intentional about not leaving any gaps in our own food chain, I feel like in the last 5 years, we have been focused on growing all the food possible. So now that we've kind of got that ball rolling and we've got some extra and some backup, and we've, you know, expanded the garden in that time. In the last 5 years, we've expanded the garden a couple times. And I feel like we've finally kind of caught up and closed a lot of those gaps that we had in our own food chain. And so finally, I'm getting to the point where I can use some of that extra garden space to experiment a little bit with different crops. So this corn is one of them. And if I find out what kind of corn it is, I will put it in the description for you. And it's very high in sugar content, so it makes a good animal feed as well. So that's a good experiment for us. What kind of corn can we grow that helps our food bill for our cows and pigs? And you can tell in the middle here, we had a rainstorm the other night and some of it went down, but it'll be okay. It'll come back up. And if it doesn't stand up again, I'll just chop it down and give it to the cows. And then here's my sweet corn. I'll go around to the other side. These are my raspberries. Red raspberries are one of our staple foods around here, these anyway, because they'll give us loads of berries come fall. So a lot of our fruit comes from our red raspberries. So I know I've talked about this before, but eating locally and eating seasonally is very important to us. So when the red raspberries are in season, we will eat a lot of red raspberries and we'll put all the excess that we can eat fresh into the freezer. And that'll be some of the fruit that we get our nutrition from then in the wintertime, the same as our apples and pears and cherries. And eating regionally means that we're not going to be buying oranges from Florida in February and having that be a large part of our nutrition when the fruit that we raise right here on the homestead is in our freezers and cans. Not saying we won't ever buy oranges. We might buy them as a treat every once in a while, but our nutrition comes from the homestead. We don't buy in our nutrition because then we have less control over how it was grown, where it was grown, what it was sprayed with, all of that. So I'm kind of proud of this section of the garden right now. My tomatoes need to be tied up. I need to work on that. And then I've got my winter squash just going wild in here. And I've got watermelons down there. And kind of what I do, I'll show you. So I do have a habit of planting things too close together. And things get too crowded. But I kind of walk through and tell my vine crops which way to grow. So I'm telling my vine crops, grow that way. They don't really want to because they know there's shade over there. But I also don't want to step on these vines when I'm harvesting tomatoes. And then I'll do the same for the watermelons. I'll just tell them which way to grow. I don't want you to grow here by my tomatoes. You grow this way. All right, I cleared a little path. That's one of the things I need to do. I need to tie up tomatoes. Did you take the garbage from the patio?
Yeah.
And put a new garbage bag in? Okay, there's a bucket of schlop in the garage. I need you to go take it to the pigs. I need you to cut these open and take them to the chickens.
Okay.
Thank you. I don't think it's going to rain. So the sweet corn is looking beautiful. It won't be long until we'll be eating some fresh sweet corn. The pollen is dropping from the tassels onto the silk, and that is what pollinates it and creates kernels. So right now, if I were to open this it would just be a cob without kernels. But when the pollen drops onto the silk, that is what forms the kernels. And here is my cucumbers. I have been harvesting a lot of cucumbers and fermenting a lot of pickles. Here's one that I missed this morning. So it's a good year for cucumbers this year. Also, one of the things that I've done this year with cucumbers is I've tried a different variety. The last couple years, the straight 8 variety is what I planted, and they would just get bugs and not produce anything. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to go with a different variety and see what happens. But also, last couple years, we've had very dry years, and you know I'm not a waterer of my garden, right? Only the strong survive when we have rough years. And I think, if you think about it, cucumbers are made up of so much water. The dry years cause the plants to struggle, and that they just succumb to the pests then, because when a plant is not thriving, they can't outgrow the onslaught of bugs. So your best bet for pests, your best prevention against pests, is strong, thriving plants. And then think about that and follow that train of thoughts a little further. Strong, thriving plants. If you want strong, thriving plants, you need a healthy soil. So it all comes back to the soil again. And that kind of reminds me of something that I've been thinking a lot about. And that is fake soil, if that comes in bags, requires you to add fake nutrients like fake fertilizers, and that doesn't grow nutrient-dense food. What grows nutrient-dense food is amended, healthy soil. So, not to discourage anybody, but if that is you, and if you're trying to grow fruits and veggies for your family in potting soil that you've bought at the grocery store, or at Walmart or somewhere, buy yourself a little composting bin. Start composting all of your scraps and start amending that potting soil, because that's what will grow you nutrient-dense food. You need to add nutrients to that potting soil every year. And because potting soil is very light, when you water it, you're going to wash a lot of the nutrients out of it. But listen, they're not making money. I'm going to get on a little soapbox here. I don't usually do this, but nobody is making money off of what I am doing here. They can't patent this soil and the manure and compost that I'm putting on this. But the potting soil that you're buying, then you become a customer, because now you have to buy their fertilizer that has to go with the potting soil. And long story short, you're not raising nutrient-dense food, and you're not going to have as much success. So then you're going to go back to the grocery store to fill in the gaps in your food supply chain. So I'm not telling you not to grow fruits and veggies in potting soil. I'm just telling you, if you have to buy potting soil, you can start adding compost to it and amending your own soil. You don't have to go buy fresh potting soil every year. You can amend it and start adding nutrients to it. But because it's in a container, it's going to be a lot more intense with its need for nutrients, because you wash everything right out of it when you water it. Anyway, if at all possible, make your own soil. Start working on your own soil. So let's get back to the garden. This is a little baby squash plant, and this is a tromboncino squash. And I could harvest it in a day or two. And I know you've heard me say this before, but I could harvest this one in a day or two and use it as a summer squash, or I can let it hang until it cures and use it and store it as a winter squash. So one of my favorite parts of the garden, seasons of the garden, is when my arches grow together at the top. I absolutely love when that happens, and we're there. So morning glories, the orange ones are scarlet runner beans. Of course, my hollyhocks are kind of on their way out, but that's okay because these big President cannas are just starting to bloom, and they will bloom all summer long. So it's okay if the hollyhocks kind of die back. My zinnias are struggling a little bit with rust, but that's okay. They will grow out of it. I'll just let them be. And then here I've got some amaranth. I like to have these to put in vases. And yeah, you can see the hollyhocks are kind of dying down here. That first one that was so pretty now is rusted and falling. And some of these are younger plants. We've got some more zinnias here. And then a red echinacea that I really, really love. All right, so this part of the garden, I've got green beans and my Crowder beans. And I've got a lot of beans, different kinds of beans. But here's what I wanted to talk to you about. See how my onions have all fallen down? So I get a lot of messages about, hey, what happened to my onions? They're falling down. And I was waiting for that to happen to mine so I can tell you all about it. So when your onions fall down, it simply means your onions are mature, right? Because what happens is the onion reaches its maturity and then it starts taking nutrients from the foliage down into the bulb. And that's what cures your bulb, is that it takes the nutrients from the foliage down into the bulb, and that's when you want to harvest the bulb to store it, because that's when it has all of its nutrients in. So I won't harvest them yet. I'll let them a couple weeks until I can tell. Okay, so when that happens, when the bulb starts pulling nutrients from the foliage, the stem, the neck of the onion gets weak and it causes them to flop over. So I won't harvest them yet. I'll wait until the tops start looking more dead, and then I'll harvest them and finish curing them in a dry area somewhere, and then we will store them. This year I should have plenty of onions to get me through the winter, and guess what? This year I don't have any garlic. So it's always something. And my potatoes that I planted on the 4th of July, they have come up so poorly. The weeds have come up well. They have come up so poorly. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk through there. I'm going to dig all the potatoes out that have germinated and put them in 1 or 2 rows. And then I'm just going to plant either a crop cover or something else in here where I've removed the potatoes, because it'll be too difficult to keep up with the weeds if I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows of potatoes that are coming up here and there. And will I try planting potatoes in July again? I absolutely will, because I think what happened is so my seed potatoes were already very soft and we had a lot of rain after I planted them, so a lot of them rotted. I actually dug after them, and a lot of them were rotted in the soil before they sprouted. So I'll try it again. I won't give up yet. And you know, this brings me to another point. I've been thinking a lot, because I get a lot of gardening questions online, and I've been thinking a lot about gardening and how to help new gardeners. And here's what I want to say. Gardening is a lot like life. Everybody's gardening experience is going to look a little different. What works for one person is not going to work for another. And I think a lot of the questions I'm fielding right now are from frustrated gardeners. And everybody seems to want to be successful at gardening right off the bat. They think that putting some seeds in the ground should give them this. And I'm not trying to be, sound self-righteous or anything like that. I simply want beginning gardeners to know that gardening is kind of like life. You learn as you go. You cannot walk. You cannot run before you walk. You cannot walk before you crawl. And you learn as you go, and every year you make a couple little adjustments, and you keep learning, and you keep trying new things, and you slowly gain skill and knowledge, and you know, connect with gardeners in your area to learn what works and what doesn't work, and you stop looking at other gardeners and comparing your failures to their successes. Because most seasoned gardeners, they don't talk a lot about their failures because they expect them. Seasoned gardeners expect to have crop failures. You kind of go into gardening expecting to have crop failures, and when it works and you get a harvest, you're extremely happy and you're grateful and you're thankful. And if gardening feels very stressful, if it feels complicated and scientific, you're probably doing it wrong. Let the garden teach you what it wants to teach you, and don't try to unpack all the science behind it before you get started, because the garden is going to teach you science as you go. You don't have to understand anything. Put some seeds in the ground and learn as you go. Anyway, this video probably got a lot longer than I expected it to. Maybe I'll break it up into 2 videos. But I gotta go get some cleaning up done and some food prepped. But anyway, thank you everybody for being here. I so enjoy when you guys come to the garden with me, because it is the way, some of my fondest memories, and I know I've told you all this before, but some of my fondest memories are of walking around the gardens with my aunts and my mom and my grandma, and watching them just talk about their gardens and the things that they are growing and discussing different things. And so bringing you all along to show you my garden is as much for me as it is for you. I enjoy having you here, so thank you.